Hi guys, Tony here. Welcome back to my 348 video. It's been a while since I've done an upload. I'm going to be doing more content from now on. I've also got my BMW 330i. I'm going to be doing some mods to that, so keep an eye out for it. So back to my 348. Basically, I'm going to be doing some modifications to the engine. I did have a crash yesterday, and here's a picture of it. And now I decided I need more power. So basically what I'm doing is changing the intake plenum to make it more like the 348 GTS, and that adds 20 horsepower. So far I've worked it out that on paper I could have added already 25 horsepower. And this is just from a few mods like changing the exhaust, which is about 10 horsepower, decatting it, they're getting rid of those old nasty cats, and that adds easily, it could be 5 horsepower. Just they're really restrictive, and that exhaust was the amount of weight as well as being restrictive. It did make a big difference. Last year I also changed the intake plenums for these carbon ones that have a lot less pressure loss, and it saved a bit of weight with the hoses too, but supposedly they add 8 horsepower. Even stripping off the air compressor, the AC unit, that not only did that save quite a bit of weight, but also I'm told by QV it can even add a little bit more horsepower to the engine, maybe like 2 horsepower, just because you haven't got that belt even when the AC is not running, where the engine's still turning a belt. I think the 348, it's got a bad reputation, because when the Honda NSX came out, it was overshadowed by that being a more usable car, better value for money. Interesting, I just had some boys filming me. Maybe they hadn't heard about the 348 being such a lackluster car. But I think the 348 has the potential to be one of the best Ferraris. I mean, the 355, a lot of people regard that as one of the best ever. And this is the same chassis, and the 348 does things better than the 355. For example, with the steering, it's unanimous that the 348 has better steering, because the 355 was over-assisted. It was early days for power steering in that car, and they just made it it just didn't have the same go-kart feeling from it. And obviously it's traction control, things like that, so it's just not as pure an experience like, say, with the Ferrari F40, which is some people regard as one of the best cars ever made. And interesting, when Seen Through Glass drove the Competizione version of the 348, which is running about 330 horsepower and quite a bit lighter, he was saying it's a completely different drive to the just a normal 348. It just transforms the car. And so if I'm going to get more power out of it than that, if I'm aiming to get it up to 360 in total, so and still shave off a bit of weight, maybe get up down to 80 kilos in total off the weight, I think that's very doable. And the combination of that, it should be a really quite a bit faster than standard. I think power to weight, it should be similar to a Ferrari 360. And you might say, oh, well, the 360's got better gearing, and yeah, that's true. It's got a nice 6-speed manual, the Mondina, but what this has is I've geared it down because I put lower profile tyres on the rear. I've got a sports clutch, which is really snappy, and even I've got these really soft rear tyres that are semi-slick, like they're half racing tyres. And that was part of the drawback yesterday when I gave the car a bit of throttle going from first to second. It was on a bend, and actually because one of the tyres is like 5 years old, I'm about to change them in about a week's time, and I think that basically the car shot out the back end, and yeah, the rest is history. But yeah, I think the 348 has the potential to be one of the best Ferraris ever made. You might say, yeah, I am biased, but even Seen Through Glass just said it had a bit of an F40 feel about it, that Competizione version. Another one that agrees with me, I met Rossa about 6 months ago, and he was saying, yeah, the 348 is just so underrated. It's the last proper go-kart Ferrari. So what else can I do for weight reduction? Well, I'm going to get rid of the heavy metal seals. That's a nice easy one, it's not too expensive. And also get a lithium battery. There's a few other options, but those two are nice easy ones. And then for power, I'm going to get forged manifold. There's no rush to do that. Also, getting it remapped too, that'll cost about probably £3,000. So yeah, not too much rush for that either, but just doing it bit by bit and just seeing how it drives as you do each one of these mods. But that the intake plenum is a nice easy one to do and just hikes up the power substantially. And comparing it so far, the difference between when I first got it and now, it is crazy. There is definitely a big difference. All those little things just add up. And I remember I had a race with someone's M3 E92, and yeah, he got a better launch anyway, but he was faster than me. But I think with all these modifications, I think it should easily be on par with one of those, potentially maybe even faster, at least lower down anyway. And I think doing these modifications, which are very in period, nothing, you're not completely changing the car, but you're making it more like a competition spec one. I think obviously it costs you a bit of money, but in overall, I think you actually save money. If you're going to buy the 355, then that's going to cost you quite a bit more. And I think you can have potentially maybe even slightly quicker of a car, better steering, maybe doesn't sound quite as good because it doesn't rev up. That's the only drawback. And as I said, if you keep the modifications kind of in period, nothing too crazy, then I don't think you devalue the car, because if you're making a car that was seen as a bit lackluster and you're making it more like a competizione spec. I've seen one that was selling for quite a bit more, where it wasn't an original competizione, but they'd done some modifications to make it on par with that, and they're asking for quite a bit more money. Of course, you're going to have less buyers because you're going to get some purists that say you can't modify a Ferrari, but you will definitely get some that they look at it for the actual driving experience, and so that would actually add value to the car. But apart from that, I think the 348 can offer real value for money. If you just do a few tweaks to it, the modifications, yeah, it may end up costing you £15,000–20,000 overall, but I think the driving experience of the car makes up for that. So now I'm going to jump onto the restoration of it too, because yeah, I've been going on about power, but I don't really want to have a real ratty 348. I do want to have it, not a concourse one, but it's still in nice condition.
But first, a short video telling you about my company, Epigenetics.
Here's a conundrum. Identical twins originate from the same DNA, so how can they turn out so different, even in traits that have a significant genetic component? For instance, why might one twin get heart disease at 55 while her sister runs marathons in perfect health?
The answer is epigenetics. Think of your DNA as the hardware and epigenetics as the software. Every choice you make has an impact on your health, wellness, and aging. Here at Epigenetics, we're there to guide you through to make those right choices for your genes. You might find there's an overwhelming amount of health information out there. Well, the TrueAge test is the most advanced epigenetic test on the market. It can identify the most impactful things that are driving your health decline. So, in essence, helping you find those easy wins and having a minimal impact to your lifestyle. By doing a DNA and epigenetics test, you can find out the risk of certain diseases and cancers, dial in your athletic performance, maybe you're aging your body at an accelerated rate, or a poor absorber of a particular vitamin. The list is endless.
So as you can see, there's a bit of work in progress here, look, going down deep into there. I did do this last year, but didn't get that far with it. So yeah, like using little tools, I don't know, toothbrushes, things like that, just to get in these nooks and crannies. Obviously, it's nowhere near as bad as what it was back in spring last year. Just little things like that, just trying to tidy up screws. And then if you look at the handle, yeah. And then up here as well, I noticed that is a little bit flaky. I did spray that a few years ago. Well, quite early on when I got the car, I went over a really hard bump and it fell off, and I stuck it back on, and it gave me an opportunity to polish it up. But yeah, I'll do that again. Besides, not as bad actually. Need to sort out, oh look, down there's a bit of corrosion. Sort out the speakers. Does need a bit of a dust, as you can see, but the leather's all right. And then the center console, yeah, for sure. If you look here, there's a crack down there where a mechanic he didn't really know what he was doing when he was opening it up. He just rushed putting it back in. That's why I always go to a specialist. And then even the gear knob here, that could do with some cleaning up. I mean, that probably just will need to be replaced at some point. yeah, that would be ideal actually. And then, yeah, that center console, what I'm doing is just going to line it with carbon, and that will sort out that crack then. You will never see it. A new speedo is being put in right at the start of April. This is ahead of me going to Auto Italia this year, and hopefully I'm just waiting to hear back about actually going on the track this time. Another thing is the roof. I peeled off the old roof lining because it was sagging. Where it went moldy, I cleaned it, and then that started to make it sag. And yeah, that definitely needs to be stripped off all the sticky foamy stuff. And then what I'll probably do is line that with carbon. I did save 0.6 kilos, which is nothing, but when it's up in the roof, that's like the worst point to have any weight. So it does add up. Maybe even be a little bit more once I strip off all that. Just deep down here, you can see little bits of mold from last year where I didn't quite get to all of it. Oh yeah, look, here's the bell button. That'll be a nice easy one, just getting the yellow back in there. Here could do with the sorting out. That's just a nice to have for sure. I did see Rata Rossa back in the autumn of last year, and yeah, he was saying that's really common. He's had a few 348s, and the leather does tend to go on that point. Annoyingly, I did have for years have the bit of trim in between that, and then when I finally got round to putting it back in, it fell out somewhere, and now I've never found it again. So I'm sure there's something that could be put in there. There's a bodge, I'm sure. Here's another area here where that could be cleaned up. This is really a detailer's dream, and up here too. I'm not sure what to do with the grill. I'm not sure what to do with the grill being in an awkward spot. Maybe even with just a little brush or something like that, just to try and rejuvenate the black.
Thanks for watching, and I'll be sure to do more regular uploads from now on.